So hello my friends, Devon Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys in Adobe Photoshop how to fix uneven skin tones and bad and poopy lighting. All right, so here we are in Adobe Photoshop. The photo's loaded up. I am using Photoshop CC 2017. I'm going to be editing this photo right with my Wacom tablet. I'm using the Intuos. It's the medium size one. So I will have some shortcut keys that are programmed on the Wacom tablet. So you guys, I'll refer to those as we kind of go along. But let's kind of open up Photoshop here and I will show you guys what I'm referring to. So this is the original image and then this is the after. So essentially when I say fixing bad and poopy lighting, referring to really just fixing the uneven differences that happen when you don't really light your subject properly. And unfortunately, I didn't really light this properly. I was still learning lighting and things of that nature at this time. And not to say that I've stopped or anything like that now. I'm getting better, but I have a long way to go. But ultimately, I was a lot worse than what I am now. So, you know, this is pretty bad, to be fair. I had a lot of work to do to fix this. But essentially what I'm going to show you guys is how to fix those that uneven light to get a better, I guess, starting point or better working point so that you can retouch and you can actually then do additional techniques on. So we're going to be doing that right now, obviously in Photoshop, but we're going to be doing that with curves. So let's go to our background layer. First things first, we're going to go down here and we're going to do a new curves adjustment layer. And we're going to set a middle point here, a little point, and we're going to move that up slightly to not quite in the middle. I do maybe about a third of the way through, so somewhere around there. And what we're going to do is go back to our layers. I'm actually going to delete that layer right there. So let me move my Wacom tablet. I'm going to delete this. Oh, sorry, I don't even need to do that. I'm actually going to right click on the adjustment layer, delete layer mask, and then we're going to hit the Alt or Option key and we're going to hit the mask so that it comes up clear. The next thing we're going to do is go up to our blend modes and we're going to make sure that is set to luminosity. The reason why I'm changing it to luminosity as opposed to normal is because if you have it on a lot of these other blend modes, they actually change the saturation, contrast, and sometimes they change the color as well. So I just wanted to specifically only change the lighting. I don't want it to change anything else about the color. I don't want it to change anything about the contrast. I want to leave all that stuff the same. So with that, that's why I'm using luminosity, because luminosity only affects exposure and it doesn't affect contrast and saturation and things of that nature. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to right click on this. We're going to actually duplicate this layer. So duplicate layer. And we can just leave it. This is going to be the same principles before, but we're going to actually go in the opposite direction to about right here. These values don't need to be exact, so don't worry about the actual values that are there. Play around with it as you apply this technique, if you're going to use this technique to your own specific images. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to hit our layer mask here. We're going to press B for our brush tool. All right, get to our brush tool. And then we are going to go up here to our brushes. By default, you guys are going to get something like this, 600 or whatever the size is. It's going to be a hard brush. What I'm going to have you guys do is just move over to this one right here. Essentially what it does is just reduces the hardness from 100% to 0. We don't want it to be a very hard brush because we're going to have very hard and jagged lines. And when you're doing this technique, it's not going to be smooth gradation. So you really don't want that. The next thing we're going to do, let's kind of, well, I'll zoom in a little bit. I won't zoom in too much. We're going to go onto our curves, make sure this is set to white, which it is. And we're going to use a rather large big brush. And then we're just going to brush over gently, doing gentle strokes, the areas that we want to increase in brightness. And you'll just kind of see me just kind of paint little by little here. I'm just doing very light, gentle strokes on the Wacom tablet and just fixing that. Okay. Open up that, kind of fix that, and then open up down here and right there. One thing I forgot to mention with this, I changed the opacity. By default, it's going to be 100%. I changed it to basically a quarter of that. So I did 22, but 25% is perfect. And then we're gonna I'm gonna use the hand tool on my Wacom tablet and just kind of move down, and we'll kind of open up the shadows a little bit on our arms as well. Main thing I do want to fix is the right side of her body. Just has a lot of unevenness. So, all right. So that opens up, let's do before and after, that opens up the shadows. And you notice that the colors don't change. The only thing that really changes is exposure. Though I did paint over her eyes, so her eyes to get a little bit lighter on that side. So I'd have to go back in and just erase that essentially, which I guess I can do right now actually. Just go use E for the eraser tool, and we'll just paint right in so her eyes maintain that same amount of punch. Same thing with the eyebrows too. I don't want the eyebrows to get, and lips if I went over the lips. Okay. And a little bit underneath that. We don't want that whole area to be adjusted. Okay, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go back over to our shadows, our opposite layer, go back to our brush tool, still painting with that same brush as before, 22% opacity, the same soft brush that I showed you guys before. And now we're going to paint the areas that we think are too bright. And same principles before, very like large and gentle brush strokes. The hands are what really need it. So, and you'll notice that I keep the brush rather large the entire time. And I just do small, gentle brush strokes. And then you guys can see the before and after there. This layer is also set to luminosity. That's part of the reason why I duplicated that before. So it's just nice and even. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna group these two by holding Shift and then clicking, going down here to group. I'm gonna apply one more curves layer. So we're gonna go back down here, curves, and then we're gonna do one more brightness layer. Okay, and then right click on the layer mask to delete that, and then Option or Alt, and we're gonna make that black. And then this is gonna be the final layer to just further increase our brightness a little bit. I just do this in stages, little by little. I'll add multiple layers of curves depending on how bright I want certain areas to be. And essentially, you just kind of go back and forth, as opposed to just doing it really hard on just those two layers alone. I just do it in stages. Okay, so something sort of like that will give us a much better starting point. And then now I can show you guys the before and after. Yeah, it's pretty big difference. But this is essentially what you do. You just go back and forth with those curves layers, or you can duplicate them, or just start new curves layers. It's up to you. But essentially, you just go back and forth there, and then you can relight your subject. Really, you can change the lighting completely to whatever that you want. If you want to accentuate those shadows, you can go ahead and do that. For me, I kind of like a little bit more even lighting. If I'm doing something like this, I want it to be fun and airy. I don't want it to be like really hard and really dark and moody. That's not really the purpose of this image, although I ended up shooting it that way, which was my own mistake. But this is really the technique that like professional level photographers are using if they make a mistake on set and the lighting wasn't the way that they wanted. This is how we're getting that perfect artificial light in Adobe Photoshop or Affinity Photo. We're just kind of painting it in, honestly, just by using curves. And there's a couple other techniques, but we're painting it in is what we're doing. So it doesn't always look perfect. It's not always shot perfect. We do make mistakes, obviously, but ultimately we use these techniques to kind of supplement our technique on set. Because sometimes, you know, the model are moving and stuff like that, and they move out of the light, and maybe you had it measured or whatever. It was very specific, and they moved out of that, and you got a weird or wonky result. But this is how you can pretty much guarantee that you can fix it, because you can change the lighting to whatever you guys want. So I hope this video added some value, you guys. I hope you learned something from this technique. This was game-changing when I ultimately discovered this. So I definitely hope it benefits you guys. It will definitely give you a little bit more flexibility when you're shooting, so you don't have to always be so obsessed about the lighting. Lighting is important. You want to make sure you get it right in camera. It makes your life a lot easier, but if you don't, you can fix it. So I want to give you guys confidence in doing that. You know, if you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let me know if I'm missing anything. Let me know if you have any questions or a specific video that you'd like to see. Let's start that discussion. We're always in our comments. So and now, until next time, my friends, peace out. Waki, brother.